You've been waiting for this for 8 years. It's when Hollywood celebrities look like a deer in the headlights at the realization that the biggest countercultural avatar in Donald Trump has ascended to power. And I promise you won't be disappointed this time either. It started when Demi Lovato's first thoughts at the inauguration weren't about the country or unity, but pearl-clutching paranoia and some sense of collective victimhood when she wrote, quote, "If you're trans or non-binary like me, please know that I see you, I feel you, I'm with you, you're validated, you're loved, you're not alone. No one can take away our identities and no one can tell us who we are and aren't. We will get through this. I love you." Actress Lily Reinhart took a different direction from gender to racial politics, playing on the fact that it also happened to be Martin Luther King Jr. Day, writing, quote, "A real man who spread love, not fear, hate, racism, and misogyny." That's apparently a similar problem that Sunny Hostin had as well. Check this out.
The one thing that I did think about was the hypocrisy of having a man be inaugurated to be president on the same day as we commemorate MLK. And that same man saying that he was going to get rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
The irony of it.
The irony of it, because Martin Luther King not only wanted racial equality, he wanted economic equality. And that is something that people tend to miss. And I want to remind people that he said that Black Americans deserved reparations for the injustices they faced. He argued that reparations were a form of justice, in fact, not charity. And he said, quote, "It's all right to tell a man to lift himself by his own bootstraps, but it is cruel jest to say to a bootless man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps." And so in thinking about that, and Donald Trump saying things that this country would be a meritocracy, you're talking about a man who didn't become the president of the United States because of merit. He had no political experience whatsoever. He had no business experience. He was given everything that he has. He is a legacy hire. He is, if anything, a DEI hire, a didn't earn it hire. And so, those were just some of the things that I was thinking about.
Well, 75 million people disagree with her, so we'll leave it at that. John Cusack was much less creative with his jibe, simply writing on X, quote, "I recommend not to watch 1 second of the inaugural snuff film currently being broadcast. It is totally meaningless." On the other end of the spectrum, people like Jimmy Kimmel just decide to take the mask off and replace late-night comedy with cheap politicking per usual.
A lot of people were wondering why all these rich guys were invited to sit in the Capitol for the inauguration. There's a perfectly good explanation for it. Trump is selling the country to the highest bidder. It really has been amazing to watch these powerful men who don't need to ever make another dollar in their lives debasing themselves to suck up to this ridiculous person. But that's why they're billionaires, I guess.
And we will pursue our manifest destiny into the stars, launching American astronauts to plant the stars and stripes on the planet Mars.
Elon needs a change of pants. Another rocket just exploded on launch. This Elon Musk, if this isn't a real-life comic book villain, I don't know who could ever possibly be that.
Can you imagine how awesome it will be to have American astronauts plant the flag on another planet for the first time?
One day, Elon Musk could be the biggest dork on 2 planets.
What a sad sight to see him try to put cold water on such grand ambitions. Over in Hollywood, someone who actually had played one of those tech billionaires with the film The Social Network, Jesse Eisenberg, had a curious question: why are these tech bros even involving themselves in politics? The answer is simple. Politics is an arena accessible to all Americans, whether they run companies or make movies for a living. Actor Kevin McHale really thought he brought a new perspective when he remarked, quote, "He said gender during his speech. Unsurprisingly, the old POTUS doesn't even know the difference between sex and gender." Jamie Lee Curtis was even more dramatic, quoting, "In a time of hate, love is an act of resistance. In a time of fear, faith is an act of resistance. In a time of misinformation, education is an act of resistance. In a time of poor leadership, community is an act of resistance. In a time like this, joy is an act of resistance. Resist, resist, resist." That's ironic because these out-of-touch celebrities from Hollywood have been one of the biggest killjoys with their mindless political takes, demonizing half the country. That's similar to what Stephen King wrote right before the inauguration, saying Donald Trump will be indoors for the inauguration with his billionaire pals. His core supporters will be left outside in the cold. Think about that. Ariana Grande just uploaded a bunch of empty accusations at the incoming president before classlessly liking a post on Instagram mocking her fellow artist Carrie Underwood for her performance at the inauguration. That, of course, pales in comparison to what Madonna said last time Donald Trump was inaugurated in 2016, which is certainly worth a look.
I'm angry. Yes, I am outraged. Yes, I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House. But I know that this won't change anything. We cannot fall into despair. As the poet W.H. Auden once wrote on the eve of World War II, we must love one another or die. I choose love. Are you with me? Say this with me. We choose love. We choose love. We choose love.
Yes, these are people that America for way too long has elevated as cultural icons before it finally smartened up and got over them in the last few years. That's perhaps why singer Lizzo decided it just wasn't worth it this time, and it led to this uneasy and bottled up response after the Trump inauguration.
I just want to send a message out there for anyone who might be feeling scared or disappointed or sad. Now is the time to build community. Now is the time to convert your fear or your anger or your disappointment or your anxiety into constructive activism, community building, and movement. Please do not allow the ways of the world to change your world. Remember the value of having a pure heart and being a good person and moving from love. There are ways to take action every single day.
But of course, no one's really buying it anymore when they have the past to compare it to. That's why Hollywood at large has seen a steep drop in relevance in this entire election cycle, to the point that they've even lost their power of influencing opinions in any tangible sense. Right now, that's a sign that the industry that has lectured the nation from the moral high horse is finally starting to realize that most of the country has gotten over them, and that means most of these reactions or half-baked political takes will become part of history that no one really likes to remember. Let me know in the comments if you agree, because this is perhaps the first time in Hollywood's history that this once great industry is facing a crisis of public influence in such a scale in modern times.